John Brown and Nick Durst, live on the UCY.TV network.
Hey, good night and welcome to the third or fourth? I'm not even sure. I think it's about the 22nd or 23rd. So just about 6 months of me and Nick Sturck's podcast live radio show. It's Spam, sports, politics, and more. Nick, are you there?
I'm here, and it is officially our third episode here on UCY.TV, although we've done a lot more episodes on this wonderful network. We've been doing our show beforehand on the Knick Knack News Network. And you can check that out at knickknacknews.wordpress.com. And, of course, tonight, as always, we'll start the show by saying, if you'd like to talk to us about anything, we'll be monitoring the chat, or you can give us a call at 1-718-717-8296, or you can tweet me at Nick_Durst, or tweet John at SI_sports. Usually we start the show right away talking politics or sports, but we do have a special guest tonight. Isn't that right, John?
We do. She has a show on the Travel Channel, and she has a really great social media presence, and she's going to come give us all the great vacation tips. It's actually kind of late in the vacation season, but if you're, an adult and you want to go on an adult vacation, this is the time to go. Not necessarily this week, but maybe in like 2 or 3 more weeks. Once the kids go back to school, that's when it's good to go take an adult vacation, because if you go to the timeshare now, or, you go to the beach or the cruise or the resort, it's like little kids, hey, mommy. And you don't have that.
And it is true. That's why a lot of adults go on vacation in September, so now everyone's back to school. I went on a cruise a few weeks ago, and there was about 5,000 people on board. There was 2,000 people of the age of 17 or under, and it was pretty crazy. There's a lot of places where, adults would like to do activities. I'm an adult. I still like to play basketball or ping pong or heck, even video games or go on the bumper cars. But unfortunately, I just didn't feel like waiting on the huge lines that were filled with children and their families.
So, as you know, Nick, but, maybe some of our listeners don't, I love gambling. So me and my buddy Brian, we do a lot of gambling in Atlantic City. And 2 or 3 years ago, we ended up getting a free cruise through resorts, which was great. But we didn't get to choose the date that we went, and we ended up going in the middle of July. And free cruise, the Norwegian is really nice, and there's a lot of gambling and stuff. But the problem is, in mid-July, it's very much a family cruise. So the entertainment every night was like SpongeBob, a magician. So there was nothing on the ship for us to do other than drink booze and gamble.
That's why they sent you there.
Oh yeah, and I processed to lose my entire, all of my money that I brought within the first 2 days.
Well, we do have Sandra Cottom coming on the show tonight. You can check her out at sandracottom.com. She'll tell you more about herself as well when she gets on soon. But yeah, she's a travel expert, especially with cruises. Like John said, she has a show on Travel TV. She's also appeared on the USA Network, Huffington Post, and Royal Caribbean TV as well. She's often also profiled in airline, in-flight magazines, travel websites, and lifestyle magazines as a world travel expert. So we are going to be talking mostly about cruises tonight, but feel free to call in or write in, tweet in any questions about anything with travel. She'll be more than happy to answer that as well. And just so the viewers out there know how we ended up getting Sandra on the show. I went on the Anthem of the Seas, or a Caribbean ship. I was posting some pictures on Instagram. She was liking them, commenting on them, and I said, hey, me and John got a great show over on the UCY.TV network. And she said, sure, I'd love to come on, and we're excited about having her this evening.
Yeah, that's actually kind of crazy. That's sort of how I got involved with UCY Radio. I was posting on YouTube and Reddit ghost videos, and Jonathan James Kramer, who used to be the host, this is like 3 years ago at this point, commented on one of my videos, and he was like, hey, do you want to come on my radio show and talk about it? And that was basically it. Me and him ended up hitting it off. He's a really good guy. You know, we became pretty good internet friends. And then, you know, a couple years later, he's moved down to South Carolina, and, you know, boom.
Yeah, that just goes to show you, this day and age, how important the media focuses on the internet, and just how important the internet is in our daily lives.
Yeah, you know, I guess I really never understood that to a point, but I definitely understand it now. You know, like the impact that social media has, because you know, just like that, me and Jonathan James Kramer, like, you know, we lived in the same city, but it's New York City. You know, 8 million people live here. Yeah. What are the chances that I'm going to end up on his radio show, you know?
Yeah, it's always funny. Me and you are from Staten Island, the 5th borough of New York. And when people are like, oh, I'm from Staten Island, they're like, oh, I know one person from Staten Island. Do you know him? I mean, sometimes it turns out we do know the person, but people got to realize Staten Island, it's actually quite a large population.
Yeah, so that's actually one of the problems with Staten Island. Its infrastructure is designed for like 150,000 people, but unfortunately about 500,000 people live there. So that's why it's such a pain in the ass to you know, to get anywhere, to go eat on a Friday night. So I think that probably led to the fact why Staten Island is like, you know, so overcrowded now.
Right, and well, Staten Island originally was, you know, all farmland. You don't really think of wildlife too much nowadays with Staten Island, but yesterday, actually 2 days ago, I was going for a run around my block, and guess who was joining me running down the block, John? It was a certain animal, and I was shocked to see these animals running down the block with me.
A deer?
Yes, 2 deer. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, started running down my block. It was absolutely insane.
What? You know what? I actually... You want to know something crazy? I actually... I heard about deer... Oh, hey, we have a call. Hold on a second.
It's Sandra.
Let's see. How do I add her to...
All right, so obviously, as the trend continues here with our brand new show, John once again messed up with the calls. Not a surprise. Could just be a Skype issue that we've been having. I see a lot of people on the UCY.TV network have been having that issue as well. So, back to what we were talking about with the deers. Yeah, I live in you know, just a basic place, and John, you're back with us now?
I am. I'm, for whatever reason, it would not add her. Nightmare.
All right, I see, yeah, she did call. It didn't add. Is there any way you could call her and add her back?
Absolutely.
That number she called.
That's what we're going to do.
So, folks, just bear with us as we are expecting our highly anticipated guest here. Did you speak with her at all when you connected it?
I did. I said, "Hey, Sandra, can you hear me? Could you call back?" I thought we were on the same call because what happens is, what I think happens anyway. Okay, let's see. She's calling back.
Let's try this again.
La, 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 la. Why is it not letting me do this?
I have no idea. So we're trying to get our guest on here. It is not working. We apologize for that.
I think, you know what I think it has to do? I think it has to do something with, I'm going to call her now.
Okay.
I think that's going to be the end around. Because whenever we had guests on the past, we always did the Skype call because it's, you know, it seems to be a little easier.
Yeah, and for those of you out there listening, we apologize that we're having some basically dead air here, but New York radio great Mike Francesa does it all the time, and it never seems to be an issue, really.
Yeah, this is a UCY thing, I believe, because I'm just trying to add it to the group, and it's saying not enough Skype credits. I didn't know we needed Skype credits.
Okay, very interesting here that UCY just does not allow the calls. Last week we had basically the same issue here. Let's see what we can do here. But yeah, John, so back to those deers. I mean, you were going to tell a little story about deers.
Yeah, so I read somewhere on the crazy internet that that someone proposed adding mountain lions to Staten Island as a way to combat the deers that we had, our deer issue.
Wow, that would be scary.
Oh, I just think it's ridiculous that that's the first thing that came to mind. You know, I don't even understand, you know, how this is really a thing in New York. How are the deer is getting in Staten Island to begin with? Are they swimming across, like, you know, I don't know. Are they swimming across, like, the East River? Like, how are they getting in here?
Well, they definitely, a few came over, and now they're just spreading like crazy, which is really insane.
I guess that's one of the things, like, they're not going to have a natural predator. You can't have people hunting them. But I'd be worried that, you know, they're going to start jumping in front of cars and stuff, because there's like a bazillion cars in Staten Island. There's way more cars than there, you know, there even needs to be.
Yeah, but a lot of these cars are getting damaged by these deer now.
Oh, that's so I don't live on Staten Island anymore, so I'm not, like, privy to all the comings and goings nowadays. I did read in SI the other day, I don't know if you saw this, but the string of suicides. Did you see that?
That is, I saw something about a young child, which was really disgusting.
Yeah, that was terrible. But the young child and a couple other ones, it all kind of happened in like a few days to each other. All right, so I have Skype credits, so let's call her.
All right.
Hello, Sandra speaking.
Hi, Sandra. Sorry about that.
Hi.
We finally were able to get you on the call.
That's okay. No problem.
Well, we were having some phone difficulties, and we apologize for that. Nothing we could really control there. The station here uses Skype, and it just so happened it wouldn't let you connect to the call after you called. So we apologize for that. But we did let our fans know that you were coming on tonight. So why don't you just give everybody a little bit of background on yourself?
Awesome. Well, I'm really happy to join you, so thank you for having me. And technical difficulties come to all of us every day, so it's not a big deal. So I am very blessed. I work in the travel industry, which there are not a lot of people that can say that they work in an industry that's a passion of people, or that it's a dream industry to work in, but it really is. And I've been in the travel industry since 1998. I am ethnic background. Originally, my father is from Australia with throws out to the UK, and my mother is from the Solomon Islands, near the Solomon Islands in the South Pacific. I live in Los Angeles, and I've lived here on and off over the last 10 years. And yeah, I've just enjoyed a really, really fabulous career in the travel industry, which has led me to where I am today.
Excellent. And for those of you out there who want to check out some of her work, where can they find you on your website and social media accounts?
Yes, the best place to find me is on my website, because from the website, all roads lead to everywhere else. So that's sandracottam.com. And it's a fun website, actually. It's different to the standard sort of travel TV hosts and journalists and bloggers that you'll find. I've got a book club on there for travel people who love to read, and I've got recipes from world foods and bucket lists and a whole bunch of 2-minute destination guides, which I think is probably the thing that most people love on the website. You can come and read in just 2 minutes about a random destination. I really like being able to speak to people who are what I call armchair travelers as well as active travelers. So armchair travelers to me are people who don't get to go anywhere for whatever reason. Maybe they have financial restraints, or they live in the middle of a farm in the middle of nowhere and they can't get off work, or perhaps they've got small children, disabilities. I like to speak to those people, armchair travelers. So there's a lot of armchair travelers that come over and they travel vicariously through me on my website.
Excellent. Yeah, I did check out the website, and so did John. It's really a fantastic website, so we recommend everybody checking that out for all of your travel guides and needs, and lots of helpful tips there as well. And we know you have a background with all different types of travel, but today we're going to talk about specifically cruises. So we see you're traveling a lot. So how many cruises have you been on, if you could even keep count, and then how many do you go on throughout the year?
I think the easiest way to count is how many I go on per month. I'm really fortunate enough to work in very closely with the cruise line industry, so I do a lot of consulting work for them, and I do some TV work for them, so I actually am fortunate enough to go on 3 cruises per month.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody's hating on me now, I'm sure, but it is a job. It is a real job.
I am green with envy right now. I myself, I've been on 15 cruises, and obviously just wow. I think it's just the best travel type of industry. You really get your bang for your buck there. And so how many days a year are you traveling? I know you're going on 3 cruises a month, so you're probably rarely ever home.
I travel 18 days per month, so over the course of a year, I guess that works out to be around 8 months of the year that I'm traveling. When I travel 18 days a month, I'm not on a ship for the full 18 months. I'm usually on a ship for about maybe 12 to 15 days, and then I spend some time in the TV studio. I do a lot of media these days. I'm working with, I have a new luggage collection, so I spend a lot of time working on design and PR and different projects like that, but probably total amount of time on a ship every month, maybe around 2 weeks a month.
That is incredible. I think you're living almost everybody's dream, except for those that do get seasick. So you're obviously on ships a lot of the time throughout the year. Have you ever been caught in a terrible storm or a hurricane?
Do you know what? I'm super lucky in my entire, I've been cruising for, my first cruise was in 2002, in December 2002, and I have been in 1 storm since 2002, and it's kind of what I would call a geographical storm in terms of it always happens in that area. If anyone has ever wanted to or has sailed around Cape Horn, and I'm talking through the Magellan Strait, which is between South America and around the very bottom tip of South America, that to me was the worst storm that I've ever been in my entire life. The only storm, but the worst one in that case. And it was really, really rocky. I have never been seasick in my life until I went on that cruise. I would do that cruise all over again, even knowing how horrific it was. But that to me was the rockiest. I think I was sick, I vomited, I was in my room, I couldn't walk properly, and it was the only time. But I have to say, out of the total number of cruises that I've done in my life, which would be in the hundreds, maybe up close to 1,000, 1 cruise with a bad storm is nothing.
Yeah, I've been on some rough overseas as well. So me and John, we live in the Northeast, the New York area.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're going on cruises, most of the time we've gone in July or August, and especially near the end of August when we're going down, towards South America and the Caribbean, it's definitely you can always run into a hurricane there. So it's been some rough seas occasionally, but yeah, when people always say to me, didn't that freak you out? I say no. And now, like, the ship can be really rocking. I'll be totally used to it, walking all around. And let's get your takes on this. Like a few years ago when Carnival was having some issues and they got stuck in storms or lost power, how would what would you say to somebody who says, oh, well, I saw that experience, I would never go on a cruise?
Right. You know what? That's such a good question, and I do get asked that a lot. And I recently, probably about 3 months ago, wrote a really good article, if I do say so myself, about my top tips for cruising. And I gave 5 super, super strong truths and tips about cruising, things that mostly your travel agents probably might not even know if they don't cruise a lot. And one of them was about exactly this, and it was about planning the time of year that you go cruising. For some people, cruising completely turns them off because they hate the thought of plenty of kids on board. For other people, they hate the thought of not being in complete control of the weather. There are times of year that you can cruise that you can completely, 100% completely avoid storms and hurricanes. And so for someone who has never cruised before, or perhaps they cruised and they found themselves caught up in bad weather, my advice would be to pick those times of year. Your travel agent, your cruise line will tell you when that is for different times of the year, but you can completely avoid bad weather. There are just some times of year that you will never get a single raindrop, let alone a storm.
Yep, that is very true. And speaking of just the rain, it's very, very easy to plan based on ports where it's highly unlikely it's going to rain. So
Get Nick here back on here in a second, and we'll be able to call her back. I don't know what that's about. Nick, are you there?
Yeah, what happened there with UCY.TV's call line?
The UCY radio dropped the call, so it kicked all 3 of us, I guess. Let's try to add her back to the call. Yeah, I think the feature of having the 4-way call and one of them being a cell phone. I think that's what's breaking it.
That's okay. Take 2, so we'll keep going. Yes, best thing you can do is to pick a certain time of year because, like you were saying before, there are times of year where, especially in the tropical destinations, they don't even have winter and summer. They have wet season and dry season, and you want to cruise during the dry season.
So what liner would you say is best? For me, I've only ever been on Norwegian, and I really liked it, other than, all the kids.
Mm-hmm. The kids. Well, then there is your lesson learned because there's no one cruise line other than Disney that has more kids than any other cruise line. Kids are seasonal, just like the sun and just like the storms. Kids are very seasonal. But to answer your question about the cruise line that I love the most, this is the most diplomatic answer, and I'm not doing it on purpose, but there really, in my opinion, is not a better cruise line than the other. Each of them have got that one thing that they do really, really, really well. You have to think about these. These are like mega hotel chains or mega cities that if they didn't do it well, they wouldn't be able to be in existence. It's an expensive industry. It's expensive to run a ship. So if you don't get it right and if you don't do it well, there are so many other options out there. Back in the day, 20 years ago, there were nowhere near the number of cruise lines that there were now. So to give you an example, one of the things that Norwegian did really well was they did this concept of freestyle dining where you could eat anywhere, anytime, and people absolutely loved it. Carnival, they do a lot of really, really great things, and they really captured the family cruise line and the fun cruise kind of industry. Royal Caribbean, they started taking out world cruises and doing destinations that other cruise lines weren't doing a lot earlier. They brought out the biggest and the highest tech ships. They always come out with the biggest ships first. Crystal Cruise Lines, they do 5-star, really, really pretty well. Holland America, they do luxury well, and they have such small ships that they can go into ports that other cruise lines can't go into. So I think that if someone was to say to me, this is what I want, what's the best cruise line? That's definitely a much easier question.
Absolutely, it's true. It all depends on people's personal taste, what they're looking to get out of their vacation. We do know you have the partnership with Royal Caribbean. You work for Royal Caribbean, yes, Royal Caribbean TV. But I'm assuming you have been on every other cruise line.
I have at various times. I have been lucky enough to partner with Holland America, with Carnival, and with Norwegian and Celebrity Cruise Lines. So I've had partnerships with all of them throughout different stages of my career. And now, like you said, I'm lucky enough to be partnered with Royal Caribbean. And they're absolutely phenomenal. But again, each of these cruise lines, you know how somebody asked me recently, what's the best cruise line? And I said to them, what's the best hotel chain? And they said, well, what do you mean? It depends. It depends if I'm looking for a 5-star, if I'm looking at a Westin or a Ritz, or if I'm just looking for a quick extended stay. And I said, that's exactly what cruising's like.
Yeah, it's like we said, it's all on your personal taste, what you're looking to get out of the vacation. And with Royal Caribbean, with Royal Caribbean TV, what exactly, for everyone out there listening, do you do with Royal Caribbean?
So I do a lot of work with Royal Caribbean at the moment. In fact, the majority of my work is done with Royal Caribbean right now, and I work very closely with their onboard revenue areas. So I work closely with their spa onboard, their casinos, their fitness centers, their shore excursions programs, their art programs, any kind of activity that you can do on board or any kind of destination-related activity, even the specialty restaurants. And I go from ship to ship to ship, and I work right across their entire fleet, but mostly on the ships, on about 10 or so ships that are located in the Caribbean and U.S. And if you've cruised on a Royal Caribbean ship, then for sure you would have seen me hosting in Europe right now. I host the Shore Excursions channel, so I do all the videos of what you can see and do in each of the ports of call, because I've been to almost every single one of them. So I highlight the best places to see, things to do, activities, and then of course if you're going for the first time, you should look at doing this, this, and this. If you've been before and you want a completely different experience in port, you could do this, this, and this. And if perhaps you have limited mobility or traveling with small children, you could do something else. You'll also see me on the ships a lot on the television talking about things like the internet at sea. That's definitely come a long, long way in the last couple of years.
Right,
just in general, the general activities, yeah.
And you did mention the internet package, so it's Royal Caribbean with their new the room package. It seems to be pretty incredible, their technology. Would you recommend any cruiser to get that?
Yeah, you know what? It depends. There are two different kinds of cruises when it comes to internet. There are the people who cruise to disconnect, and then there are the people who cruise and love to be connected. For me, I love to be connected wherever I am, and might be part of the way that I like to share my travel. But definitely it is a much more reliable source of connection than perhaps roaming or paying excessive roaming charges. And back in the day, a lot of the cruise lines, in fact, I believe that one or two of them still might be, used to charge per minute. So if you remember cruising, even up to as late as 5 years ago, you would get on board and you would buy a package of maybe 100 or 200 internet minutes. And then if the page took a minute to load, you'd be like, snap, there's my minute gone. And before you knew it, all your minutes were gone. Well, Royal Caribbean were really clever with this, and they moved to, you correctly named it, Voom, which is their their high-speed internet at sea. And I know a lot of people still struggle with, well, you know what, I go to a hotel and it's free, and I go to Starbucks and it's free, and then I go on a ship and I've got to pay for it. But there's two things there. One, they're not using fiber optic cables and they can't connect to anything. They're using space satellites. And two, is anything really free in life? I really challenge people. If you go to Starbucks and you feel that your internet is free, it might not be that you have to pay for it each time you connect. But definitely the internet has come a long, long way on ships. And to be honest, I FaceTime home. We talked about how often I was away from home. Well, I have family, and so obviously it's really important for me to keep connected with my loved ones. And I have to say, I FaceTime home twice a day.
Yeah, I think that truly is the best part of these new internet packages, is that you're able to be on your phone and you can contact home through FaceTime if you want to talk to the person, or you can do Facebook video, where in the past, like you said, you had to pay per minute. It was so slow. You can maybe get a few words out via text, like typing through a messenger, or AIM, or going back to AOL with email. But now you could, or you would have to go and pay to make a phone call. Now you could just do it on your phone, which is really spectacular. And what I noticed is I was just on the anthem a few weeks ago, the anthem of the seas, and the Internet Cafe, which was always a big thing on previous Royal Caribbean ships and other cruise lines, it only had 2 computers, and it was tucked away, hidden in the library, and that's because everyone would just, use their phone or iPad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know what? I was on Anthem of the Seas a few months ago, and in fact, I'm headed there the day after tomorrow. And one of the things when I cruised on the Anthem, I was so impressed by the ship. I got the biggest ship crush. I haven't had a ship crush in a really long time, but I got the biggest ship crush for Anthem because I'm a techie kind of girl. I love my gadgets, and I just felt the Anthem was so high-tech. And I was also very surprised to find the Internet Cafe tucked right at the back of the 270 lounge, upstairs in a library around the corner. But what I think is really surprising now is if you walk along the pool deck or you walk down the Royal Promenade or the Esplanade on any of the ships, you'll see people watching Netflix and streaming Roku and, face chatting and things like that. And I would never have thought that was possible if you'd have asked me 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's truly incredible how far the technology has come, especially with just Royal Caribbean in general. I'm assuming you rode the North Star. What did you think of that experience?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm kind of embarrassed to tell you that I did not do the North Star. I had such limited time when I was on board. I am going on it this weekend, though. And instead of doing the North Star, I chose to do the iFly.
Yeah,
the skydiving, because that was more in my... both of those sit equally inside of my things that I'm fearful of, so I decided to tackle just one of them, and I did the iFly, but I'm really excited to do North Star this weekend.
So North Star, I was on it. I was very nervous because I'm not a big fan of heights. I went on it in Puerto Rico. You had to make you have to make your reservation ahead of time, and all of a sudden I turn around or halfway up. I didn't even feel it. I was a little disappointed though because as advertised in the commercials, it will go to the side of the ship. Apparently, they no longer do that. So the people working there said there's not enough time for cruise anymore. Nobody could get on. It was taking too long. So now you just go up and down, which is a little disappointing because you see the commercial, like you're out at sea, hanging over the ship, and I'm sure that would be a great picture to get. But it was a really cool experience. And then on the last day, I just walked up to the North Star, to the person working there, and I said, could I go on? And I just walked right on without having to wait or make a reservation. So that was really
that's awesome. Awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. One of the things that I also liked about Anthem of the Seas was all of the specialty dining. The specialty dining, in my mind, has come so far. Like, I remember when just your traditional dining seatings of like 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. seating on a cruise ship were all that you would have. Well, you would have that option where you chose either the 6 p.m. or the 8 p.m. seating, or you went to the buffet, whether it be the Lido or the Windjammer or whatever it was. And now to find these phenomenal restaurants, I had the pleasure of interviewing on television recently Chef Travis from Izumi. And for those of you who have cruised with Royal Caribbean before, or perhaps even been to any of the Sandals restaurants around the world, or who lived like me in LA, you would know Chef Travis as being one of the most famous chefs in the world when it comes to Japanese cuisine. And I interviewed Travis maybe about 2 months ago now in the Mediterranean, and his restaurant is amazing, Izumi on board, but there's so many other brilliant restaurants that have also come up. Did you have a chance to check those out?
Yeah, I went to Jamie Oliver's Italian on board, and I also went to Wonderland. Wonderland, for those who don't know, like mimics Alice in Wonderland, so the food was a little bit too weird for my taste, but a very nice environment and everything. It really plays up to the title, Wonderland.
Yeah, I truly loved Wonderland. For me, I'm a very adventurous eater, so it was a really amazing experience. And it wasn't so much that the food itself is unusual. I think it's the way that they present it. If anyone has not heard of Wonderland, it's very much a gastro-scientific experience where, they'll lift the lid on something and there'll be a fresh garden underneath of the lid and all the steam will come up and smoke will come up, and it's really kind of incredible. I am an adventurous eater. If you're a nuggets or burgers kind of person, you're probably not going to love it, but Jamie Oliver's was very good as well. Michael's Pub, Chef's Table. There's so many great restaurants on board.
Yes, and the only thing I had to complain about the dinner was, and I understand people are paying more, but It's kind of not fair that the Coastal Kitchen is only to exclusive suite members.
Yeah, I was very, very lucky. I'm not a suite. I don't stay in suites usually, but I've only been lucky enough to stay in a suite twice before. But I was lucky enough to eat in a suite one night. I was invited by a guest, and it truly is really, really good food. Who knows? Maybe on one of their new ships they'll roll out that kind of a restaurant to the rest of the guests.
Absolutely, and their newest ship is the largest in the world now, the Harmony of the Seas, and they're taking the best of both worlds, the technology from the Quantum class and just the size of the Oasis class. Have you been on that ship yet?
Oh, I have not, but I'm going on November for the entire month of November, and I have families coming on board to cruise with me as well, so I'm super excited. Some of the crew who work on board have told me, some of them that follow me on Instagram have taken pictures and sent it to me, and they've told me that it's like the love child of the Oasis class and the Quantum class, so it's the best of both ships, the hybrid.
Absolutely, and like you said a few minutes ago, Royal Caribbean, they're always the first to get out there with the technology and the largest ships, and then everyone seems to follow. And now another really large ship, shifting cruise lines here, is the Carnival Vista.
Yes.
And that looks just it looks like a beautiful ship, and they just announced the Horizon, I believe, will be the sister ship, the second ship. Have you had the opportunity to go on that, or what can you tell us about it?
I haven't yet, but I do intend on heading onto them next year sometime, because I do so much work with Royal Caribbean. When I cruise for vacation, I actually tend to cruise on non-Royal Caribbean ships, just so that I can cruise a little bit and not know anybody, because I'm quite well known across the Royal Caribbean ships. So I'm really excited to do that. I had the pleasure of cruising on a Norwegian ship in a completely different kind of stateroom than I've ever seen or heard of before last year, and to me that was so exciting. So I'm looking forward to cruising on the Carnival, on the bigger Carnival ships.
Absolutely, and then one of the newer ships, bigger ships, definitely for Norwegian, is the Breakaway class. I went on the Breakaway a few years ago. I was so impressed by their specialty dining options. I thought it was just truly incredible.
Yeah, I've cruised on the Breakaway too, and it was a really, really great experience. And for someone who, I partnered with Norwegian earlier on in my career, so back in that time I was cruising on the Norwegian Wind, and that ship is not even with them anymore. So to be able to go back and to see something like the Breakaway or the Jade at the time that I was cruising with them was really exciting, and I'm glad to see every cruise line. Like I said to you before, there's not a bad cruise line out there. It really comes down to picking the best cruise line that's suited to your needs, and that's why I really like if you can find yourself a really good travel agent or a really good travel partner that you can really ask the right questions, and hopefully if they've got a good knowledge of cruising, they'll be able to point you in the right direction. And I wouldn't even say necessarily that one cruise line is better suited to a different kind of person, because I know like with Royal and with Holland America, I partnered with them a long time ago, that it comes down to the actual ships itself, and quite often they're defined by the itinerary or by the size of the ship, or both. So if you are looking for a cruise with not a lot of children, you're going to find that the bigger ships have more children and the smaller ships have less children, because that comes down to facilities. So it's really very, very exciting. I wonder if we'll see in the future a day where we have mostly big ships and not so many small ships anymore.
I can tell you one cruise line which is absolutely terrible. I went out with the U.S. Navy. Have you heard of them? And that cruise was misery.
You want me to tell you a really funny joke? I'm not a funny girl, but I do have one funny joke. In my entire life, I've amassed one funny joke. It's about the U.S. Navy. So it's not actually a joke, it's a true story. Well, as true as I know it to be. I met a couple when I was backpacking in Morocco about 10 years ago, and they were from a really small village in Mexico, and they told me that there was a woman in the village who had a baby, and she used to sit up on the cliff when she was pregnant to take in the fresh air, and she named her baby after a ship that she used to see passing every day, and the baby was called Usnavi. You get that?
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, she called her baby U.S. Navy, Usnavi, and I thought, well, if it's said with a Mexican accent, it sounds very Latino, doesn't it? I don't know if it's true, but I think it's pretty funny.
That's pretty funny. Definitely is. So you did mention that we were on the Anthem. I was on the Anthem. When you were on the Anthem, was John Blair the cruise director and Katrina Blair the entertainment director?
They were not on the Anthem when I was there, but I have I have worked with them in the past before. I've known them for quite some time. I first worked with them in 2003, I believe it was, on Vision of the Seas, which was the third largest ship in the Royal Caribbean fleet at the time, and is now amongst the smallest.
Wow. Yeah. So I was on with them. Apparently, they were filling in for another cruise director who had a shoulder surgery. And for some people, the cruise director can actually make or break the cruise. Who are some of your favorite cruise directors that you were able to work with over the years?
Well, I think that that's definitely true, and I think that it was more so when the ships were smaller, when you would have that closer interaction with the cruise director. I really do think that back when the ships were only 1,000 or 2,000 people, that your chances of meeting the cruise director and seeing the cruise director and socializing with the cruise director were pretty big. And that's back when the cruise director also hosted a lot of the smaller activities. Perhaps you find them dancing or being with the dance hosts, if you remember cruising back long enough when they had dance hosts. And these days, the cruise director still very much is the face of the cruise line, but you'll often see them a lot more on stage or on television. I have been so lucky to work with some awesome cruise directors over the years, and what I find really great is that they're so different. So where there are some super, super funny cruise directors, there are others who are more sort of helpful and the girl next door now instead of the guy next door. And you just find they're so different ages, different nationalities. And of course, as all the different cruise lines expand out to different parts of the world, they pick up different demographics of guests. So when the Rhapsody of the Seas was in Brazil, they definitely needed Portuguese-speaking cruise directors. Katrina and John, I definitely did enjoy working with them. And then also I really have a soft spot for Abe Hughes. I worked with Abe on Anthem of the Seas. He's the permanent cruise director, or was at the time there. There are so many cruise directors that I've loved working with over the years. They tend to move around a little bit.
Yeah, I noticed with, especially Royal Caribbean, the cruise directors are constantly changing ships. It seems more with like Carnival or Norwegian. A cruise director could be, he could have a ship for like multiple years. He gets off vacation, comes back on. So, a lot of times people I've seen book cruises just for the cruise directors, which is crazy.
Wow.
But you mentioned earlier how Royal Caribbean is the first to go to other ports or come out and sail out different ports. Right now they're having a huge emphasis on Asia, which is where the Quantum of the Seas is. And I saw that the Quantum of the Seas, and this is a question I was wondering, their cruise director right now is Jimmy Rhodes, I believe. And I'm just wondering, how does that work? I'm sure he doesn't speak too much Chinese, especially with the...
That's a really good question, and you're definitely right. Your observations are good there. Spot on. That Royal Caribbean do have quite a lot of ships out in Asia. It's an emerging market. It's so important in the cruise industry. There are two different kinds of markets, I guess, that you will find out in Asia. There is the local markets, so our local residents of the countries of Asia, but there are also a couple of ships, for example, Legend of the Seas, that still is full of predominantly Western guests. There are a lot of Australians that are cruising to Asia. And they're done like that for a reason, because obviously the food and the way that the ship operates is catered to the demographic of the ship, whilst Royal Caribbean and every cruise line for that matter is always wants to stay sort of on brand to themselves. They're also very flexible and adaptable. And your question about the cruise director is very interesting, because where do you sort of draw the line as to keeping on brand but not being able to cater to your guests? And I think Royal Caribbean does a really good job of that. So the way that they do it in Asia with the cruise director is that they have an assistant or a host or a local host that speaks the language. And before even Asia, Royal Caribbean, and also I remember Norwegian and Princess being in the same situation, that a few of them started doing cruises out of Norway where they had predominantly Norwegian guests, or they were sailing out of Copenhagen or Amsterdam. And so the use of a local host or a translator was first seen sort of back then. And that's exactly what's happening in Asia. We have a lot of crew on different ships for the different cruise lines that are hired because of the demographic of guests out there, especially if the cruise line has an intention to stay out there for a number of years. It's part of their longer growth plan. But most definitely there are situations where we do bring in hosts to assist with a Western crew. And that's exactly how it's done there.
Absolutely. And go ahead, John.
So for a guy like me, Sandra, cruises are essentially a floating eating tour. I don't like beaches. I get sunburn. I love the free booze, so I buy the card and I booze up the whole time. And then essentially, when I wake up at noon, I'll have breakfast or lunch or dinner all at once. So the food's the biggest part for me. In your opinion, what would you say is the best cruise line just for food? Like if you were picking a cruise with no other stipulations, you're going to stay in your room and just eat. What's the best cruise line to go?
That's hilarious. To be honest, I'm going to go for Royal in this case because I think that if you're a foodie or a drinky, I don't want to say a drunk because that implies that you take it too far. So let's call it a foodie or a drinky. If you're a foodie or a drinky, you want to be on the biggest ships. It's not so much the cruise line, but it's the size of the ship because the size of the ship is always going to have something open. You know, like if you cruise on a really small ship, often you'll come back and you'll be caught between like the Lido hours are closed, but the cafe is not quite open and it's not really dinner and it's kind of hard to find somewhere to eat in the hour before traditional dinner starts. On a big ship, that never happens because as you probably have noticed in your style of cruising, there is always something open on a big ship. So I would definitely say if you're a foodie and a drinky, stick to the big ships because by the time you hit every single bar on board, every single cafe, every single like themed food night, you're going to be one happy overweight cruiser.
Yeah, I came back from my cruise overweight, and John, you're a bit of a drinky, so you would definitely have liked the ship because they have a bionic bar, which is robots make the drinks. So you would like that. You could have just kept ordering your drinks from the robot. From an iPad, it would have been easy for you. You wouldn't have had to get up. You could have been eating a hamburger while drinking. But the crazy thing was that I was really surprised was the bionic bar closed at 10 p.m. I don't know. I guess the robots needed a break or something. But other than that, it was really an amazing thing to see.
It's super clever. I have a video on my Instagram if anyone wants to check it out of how it all works. And I think, to be honest, it closes at 10 p.m. because despite the fact that it's a robot, it still needs a human to supervise the people that use the robot. So I'm pretty sure she finishes then.
Right. There was that one lady there. She must be like the happiest bartender on board because she just puts out straws and napkins and she's like shows people how to use the iPad. So not a bad job there.
I found that the robot bartender is actually a lot slower than a human bartender.
Yeah, they took a long time. And
totally, but that's part of the show. I think that people would be really disappointed to go up to the bionic bar to find it takes 3 seconds to make a drink. It's part of the show, guys.
I got my first drink from the robot. I was like, this is so cool. And then the second night, I was like, I'm going to find that bartender that I like.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's one of those things. That's why we don't find them all around the ships, all around the different cruise lines, because it's one of those things. It's a novelty. You'll only just find it the one time. And one of the greatest parts about being a drinky on the ship is also meeting all the bartenders, finding a different bar. Do you guys find that you like one bar in particular, or do you kind of bar hop around the ship?
I found that the second or third night, you make your little vacation friends. It was a really awesome couple. They just got married. They were a lesbian couple that just got married in Vermont, and they were on their honeymoon. And me and my buddy started hanging out with them, and we were playing cards with them because it was a casino thing. And they always hung out at one bar, so we did as well. And we ended up being friends with the bartender at one point. And we ended up going to that bar for the rest of the cruise, the rest of the week. It was really cool. It was like you made little friends, and like Cheers, where everybody knows your name. I didn't have to tell them what I wanted anymore. They just got me the Bud Light in the in the metal bottle. It was great.
So
I find I'm kind of the same. I find one bar and I stick to it, but my bar is usually done by view. Either I want to people watch or look outside, and that determines where I go. Yeah. Or the music, the entertainment, of course, determines what bar I like.
So we know John's favorite activity on the ship is drinking. You mentioned people watching, which I love to do, especially when you just keep seeing the same person every single day, and you're like, there they are again. There's this one girl on the cruise that me and my girlfriend kept seeing, and all of a sudden, the fifth day, we saw her for the 15th time, and I can't repeat on the show here, but under her breath, she was like, "Oh, I keep seeing these, effers." So I don't know why she was getting pissed off about that. But we kept running into these same people over again, which is really surprising with the size of the ship we were on. So like I said, one of my favorite activities, other than eating, of course, and my Instagram is all about food, is people watching. But what are your favorite onboard activities?
I have two high activities on my list, and both of you being drinkies and foodies are probably not going to have any understanding or comprehension of why this is my favorite activity, but I'm going to go out there on a limb and say that neither of you probably go there very often, but I love the gym. I love working out.
I went to the gym. Yeah, the Anthem gym was very, very large. I was surprised.
So
you did go to the gym.
Of course,
did you both go to the gym?
No, I played pickup basketball though, and
I played basketball as well. Yeah.
Yeah, my cruise was a lot of people from Norway, and like they were Dutch and they didn't know how to play basketball. So we ran the court. It was amazing. I felt like LeBron. It was like the first time in my life I've ever been the best player. It was very happy.
You found your niche. Yeah. I love the gym. I love the spa. I absolutely adore the spa. And to be honest, I'm not the kind of woman that goes to the spa very often on land. When I'm not traveling, it is not something that I do. It's not a treat that I have that I do. But when I go on board, I really do. I love to stock up on my treatments. I love to go in for a facial. I love to go in for a massage. I love to have my nails done. I use it to get my hair cut. I love going into the gym, and I think I do a lot of different kinds of classes that I wouldn't do in other places. I just came off Allure and Oasis of the Seas in the past 2 months, and both of those have got super fly gyms, and just things like aerial yoga and spin classes and circuit training and yoga on the deck, yoga under the stars, Pilates on the beach. I really enjoy that. So that's one of my pastimes. I am a little bit of a foodie as well, so I do enjoy that. But I love the entertainment. I literally sit down at the beginning of the cruise and I plan out what shows I want to see, especially on the bigger classes on the Oasis cruise ship where they have the dive shows. Between that, the ice shows, the theatre shows, the live music, and then just some of the live bands, I'm a huge entertainment junkie, so I really enjoy that. And the comedy clubs, they're new to ships
the comedy shows are great. There was a comedian just on the Anthem, Pat Godwin, and he was just absolutely... He was just hysterical and went to all of the shows. There are so many great, talented comedians, and that's one of my favorite parts of the cruise, as well as basketball and mini golf. I love playing mini golf. Unfortunately, there was no mini golf.
I've never done that.
You never played mini golf?
I've never,
oh, my goodness.
No, I like to play real golf, so I've never tried mini golf
well,
before, but I'll definitely try it on the next
when you get the chance, make sure you go when you're at sea, because it's so impossible to play with the wind, and it adds a great degree of fun to the game when you hit the ball straight and it goes blowing totally out of the way because you're moving.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, another activity that I really like to do that a lot of people, I think you would never do this if you were cruising for the first time, especially on one of these big ships because there's so much to see and do. I love finding quiet places and pulling out like a jigsaw puzzle or a board game or a trivia game or something like that and being able to sit with friends and have a few cocktails and play board games. And I love going to trivia. I don't know if either of you go to trivia on a ship, but I love trivia. I'm very competitive. I don't play to win. I play to kill. And I love trivia.
Yeah, I love playing all the games on the ship. Like I always come home with a gold medal or a trophy, whether it's trivia, hairy chest competition. I actually won. I'm a skinny guy with no hair on my chest, but I was a great dancer. The hot dog eating competition, I won on Norwegian, and I won a soccer tournament on the Anthem of the Seas. I always win basketball tournaments, so it's just a lot of fun. My favorite activity, though, would have to be karaoke. I just get up there and I'm just like the best singer in the world, I feel like, and it's a really fun time.
I feel like to love karaoke, you also need to love drinking because I feel like they go hand in hand, especially for a spectator. They definitely go hand in hand. I feel like you need to drink more to spectate than you need to play.
The live band karaoke is amazing. That's something that's really like unique about just the cruising, and that's really cool. I love that.
Yeah. I love that people don't care. People leave their inhibitions at home when they go cruising, and I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
it helps with the people watching for sure.
You'll never see these people again in your life, so go ahead and be as crazy as you want. We're running out of time here, so really quick, we'll do some sort of rapid fire here, and you give a brief explanation as well. What is your favorite port of call?
St. Petersburg, Russia.
St. Petersburg, Russia. Okay, and is it cold when you go there?
No, we go during summertime, and there are so many things to do, including a trip to Moscow that you can do overnight and go to the Kremlin. It's amazing.
Very nice. So we never, put that as thought as top port of call.
Onto the bucket list, boys. Put it onto the bucket list.
Onto the bucket list. There it goes. favorite private island. So for those of you that don't know, basically every cruise line has a private island in the Caribbean where their ships go. So what would be your favorite of the private islands that you've been on?
My favorite of the private islands, they don't own this island, but Norwegian Cruise Lines used to go to a country called Kiribati down in the South Pacific, just above the equator. Favorite place in the world for a private island.
Excellent. Yeah, and private islands are so relaxing. You get off, you're at the beach already. You don't have to you don't have to like get a taxi or anything. You don't have to worry about getting harassed by locals.
No, they even take off all their food. They cook the food for you on the island. They take everything back on board. They don't leave anything on the island. I love that they reduce their carbon footprint. They leave nothing behind. And the reason I like that particular island in Kiribati is because there is a local school there, a primary school, which is super cute. It's called the NCL school, and they bring school supplies to it every week.
That's awesome. It's great to see them giving to the places that they're making a profit off. And so I went to St. Martin on the Anthem, went to the beach, and it was not good because literally every minute there was people coming over trying to sell you stuff. It was hard to relax there. So after about an hour, we went back on board. So what would be your least favorite port of call?
Ooh, that's tough. My least favorite would be the ones, maybe even like St. Martin, St. Thomas. There is nothing wrong with them, and they're such beautiful islands. In fact, I would vacation there. But in terms of a cruise port, maybe because they're so crowded, because they can take so many ships in one go. But that would be the only reason, and we're really nitpicking when we're looking at that. Absolutely.
And then what would be, if you had to put together your dream cruise, would you go picking a duration of days, cruise line, departure port, itinerary? If you had to make a cruise itinerary.
If it was like Sandra of the Seas, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see it already. Okay, so Sandra of the Seas would be a very small ship, because so that it could fit into port, or it would be Anthem of the Seas, but it could still fit into every port. And I would want to sail from London, or from Southampton, all the way down Morocco, all the way around Africa, Indian subcontinent, all through Asia. Then I'd want to go all the way around Australia, back up through the South Pacific. Then I'd like to go all the way down around South America, back up through the Panama Canal, back again into the South Pacific, into the Caribbean, up to the Baltic, down to the Med. So it's kind of like a world cruise.
Sounds like you got yourself a good year right there on board.
Yeah, pretty much.
Lots of fun.
Pretty much. I've done something very similar before. It was a 110-day cruise. It was around the world with Norwegian Cruise Lines, but I would love to do that. Sandra of the Seas would do that.
All right. So, Sandra, we just want to really thank you so much. We originally planned you on for 30 minutes. We had some technical difficulties, but the time flew by. It was great to speak to you about cruising. Hopefully we can do this again down the road at some point. And one more time, why don't you just let everybody know how they could find you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to come back and to talk about something, whether it be cruising or anything else. You can find me at sandracottam.com, COTTAM, and probably the most engaging place where you can talk to me every single day is on my Instagram. And, of course, you can check out my luggage collection online, perhaps find yourself a book to read, or even if you'd just like to be inspired and you're not going anywhere, you can check out my 2-minute destination reads. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thank Sandra.
Thank you, Sandra.
See you later.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Happy sails.
Bon voyage.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. I tell you, the music's about to kick in, but this was a good show, and now it's made me want to go on vacation.
Absolutely. It was a great show, and that's what we like. Really hope you liked it as well, and next week we'll probably get back to our usual sports, politics stuff, but tonight was the more part of Spam. And I thought it was a good show, very enjoyable other than our technical difficulties.
Yeah. Who knew that Skype was going to squeeze you for 15 cents to make a phone call? What a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So there you go. We're all about our fans out there. So John coughed up the money, took out the penny, the nickel and dime. Skype was literally nickel and diming us.
I sent them a money order.
Should've been a man, but you don't know him. Don't you see why?